Zengul's dad came home early and saw the nanny playing with his disabled daughter. What he did. David Thompson felt his heart tighten when he quietly entered the house and saw through the living room window something that left him paralyzed. His daughter Emily, just 3 years old, was standing alone for the first time since the doctors diagnosed her with mild cerebral palsy. That's when he noticed that the nanny, Jennifer, was making specific movements with the girl's legs while singing a soft melody. Emily took a staggering step, then another, and Jennifer held her gently, whispering words of encouragement that made David's eyes fill with tears. "That's right, princess. Slowly, one little foot in front of the other," murmured the young woman, adjusting the child's posture in a way David had never seen before. He watched fascinated as Jennifer applied techniques he recognized from the very expensive private treatments he had researched, but hadn't yet been able to schedule for Emily. The nanny moved the girl's legs at precise angles, stimulating specific muscles with impressive naturalness. Emily stumbled and landed sitting on the rug, but instead of crying as she always did, she laughed loudly and stretched her little arms out to Jennifer, asking to continue. The scene touched David in a way he hadn't felt in a long time, since before losing his wife in an accident 2 years ago. "Let's try one more time, my love. You are the bravest girl I know," said Jennifer, lifting Emily carefully. David decided to reveal himself, tapping lightly on the living room door. Jennifer was startled and quickly sat Emily on the sofa, trying to disguise what she was doing. "Hi, Mr. Thompson. You're early today," she said, clearly embarrassed. "Jennifer, what were you doing?" he asked, approaching with curiosity. "Nothing much, just playing a little," she replied, avoiding his gaze. David knelt beside his daughter, who immediately hugged him tightly. He noticed that Emily seemed more alert, more excited than she usually was during the exercises with the physical therapist who came twice a week. "Daddy, I walked," exclaimed Emily, clapping her little hands. "You really walked, princess?" asked David, looking at Jennifer for confirmation. "Just a few little steps, nothing major," downplayed the nanny, nervously organizing the toys scattered on the floor. But David had seen enough to know it wasn't nothing major. He knew every one of his daughter's limitations, every difficulty she faced, and what he had witnessed was progress that the specialists had said could take months to happen. "Jennifer, where did you learn those techniques?" he insisted. She stopped arranging the toys and stared at him for a moment, her eyes revealing a deep sadness he had never noticed before. I need to go. My time is up," she said, quickly grabbing her bag. "Wait, you didn't answer my question," insisted David, but she was already leaving. "Mr. Thompson, I don't think I can work here anymore," she said, stopping at the door. "What do you mean? Why?" He stood up, confused by her reaction. "I overstepped some professional boundaries. I shouldn't have done those exercises with Emily without your authorization," she explained, not looking him in the eye. "But she improved. You saw how well she reacted," he argued. "Even so, it wasn't appropriate on my part." "I apologize," said Jennifer, and she left before he could say anything else. David stood there, not understanding what had happened. Emily began to cry, stretching her little arms toward the door through which Jennifer had left. "Where's Jenny, Daddy?" asked the girl between sobs. "She had to go home, sweetie, but she'll be back tomorrow," he replied, not sure if that was true. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot since we're just starting out. Now continuing, the next morning David waited anxiously for Jennifer to arrive, but she never showed up. He called her cell phone several times, but the calls went straight to voicemail. Emily became irritable and tearful, refusing to eat and asking for her nanny every few minutes. "Daddy, where's Jenny? I want Jenny," the little girl repeated, rejecting the toys he offered her. Around 10 in the morning, the doorbell rang. David rushed to answer it, hoping it was Jennifer, but found an older woman at the door. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. I'm Margaret from Premium Caregivers. Jennifer Miller called me last night, asking to arrange a replacement for her. I'm here to take care of Emily," said the woman, stepping inside without being invited. "A replacement? But I didn't ask for any replacement," protested David. According to her, there was a misunderstanding, and she thought it best to step away. "Don't worry. I have 15 years of experience with special needs children, explained Margaret, approaching Emily. The little girl hid behind her father's legs, completely rejecting the new caregiver. Throughout the day, Emily cried and refused to do any activities, including eating properly. David tried calling Jennifer one more time, and this time she answered. "Jennifer, I need to talk to you. Emily is very sad. She won't accept another nanny," he said quickly before she could hang up. "Mr. Thompson, I already explained yesterday. I can't work there anymore," she replied coldly. "But why? What happened that was so serious?" he insisted. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "I got too involved. It's not professional," she finally said. "Getting involved with a child you cared for isn't a crime, Jennifer. On the contrary, it shows you have a heart," argued David. "You don't understand. I shouldn't have done those exercises. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a doctor. I could have hurt Emily," she said, her voice cracking. "But you didn't hurt her. You helped her more than any professional so far," he insisted. "I have to go. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson," she said, and the call ended. David spent the rest of the day thinking about Jennifer's strange reaction. Why was she so desperate to leave? And most importantly, how did she know those very specific techniques? That night, after managing to get Emily to sleep with great difficulty, he went to the room where Jennifer kept her things during work. On the nightstand, he found a small notebook she had forgotten. When he opened it, he was amazed. It contained detailed notes about Emily's daily progress, including observations about reflexes, muscle tone, and reactions to different stimuli. It was the kind of report he would expect from a pediatric neurologist, not a nanny. Emily responded well to the right hip strengthening exercise. Suspected mild hypotonia on the left side needs to be addressed with more attention. Reflexes have improved 30% since the beginning of the month, read one of the entries. How did she know about hypotonia? How did she know specific exercises for hip strengthening? David remembered that Jennifer had presented herself with impeccable references, but now he began to suspect there was something more to her story. The next day, he took Emily to her routine appointment with the neurologist, Dr. Catherine Williams. The doctor was visibly impressed with the examination. "David, Emily has made remarkable progress in the last few weeks. Who's been doing physical therapy with her?" asked the doctor. "We still have that physical therapist who comes twice a week, but..." he began hesitantly. "What is it?" insisted the doctor. "Her nanny was doing some different exercises, but she quit yesterday," he explained. "What kind of exercises?" asked Dr. Catherine, interested. David described what he had seen, and the doctor's expression changed. "David, what you're describing are very advanced pediatric neurorehabilitation techniques. Where did this nanny study?" she asked. "I don't know. Actually, I'm starting to think I know nothing about her," he admitted. "Well, whoever she is, she's doing exceptional work. Emily has improved more in 3 weeks than in the previous 6 months," said the doctor. "You should try to bring her back." Leaving the office, David made a decision. He would find out who Jennifer Miller was and why she had run away so suddenly. He started by calling the agency where he had hired Jennifer, but discovered something disturbing. There was no record of a Jennifer Miller in their files. "Mr. David, you must be confused. We don't have any employee by that name," said the agency representative. "But she's been working for me for 3 months. You're the ones who recommended her," he insisted. "Let me check using your number." "Ah, yes, we have you in our system. But the nanny you hired for your daughter is named Amanda Kelly Brown," explained the representative. David hung up the phone with a sinking feeling in his stomach. If Jennifer wasn't her real name, what else had she hidden from him? That afternoon, while Emily slept restlessly, he decided to investigate further. He took a photo he had taken at Emily's birthday party the previous month, where Jennifer appeared smiling next to the girl, and went to the neighborhood where she had said she lived. He showed the photo to several people on the street, until an older man at the bakery recognized her. "Oh, that's Jennifer, but she doesn't live in this neighborhood. She works at St. Joseph's Hospital, on the night shift. She's a very good girl, always stops to chat with me when she passes by," said the man. St. Joseph's Hospital. David knew the place. It was a public hospital that mainly served the city's underprivileged community. What would Jennifer be doing there, especially on the night shift. That same night he left Emily with his mother, Mrs. Eleanor, and went to the hospital. Arriving there, he walked through the corridors until he found her working as a cleaning assistant in the pediatric wing. Jennifer was mopping the floor when she looked up and saw him. The shock on her face was evident, and she immediately stood up. "Mr. David, what are you doing here?" she asked, clearly nervous. "I came to talk to you. I need to understand what's going on," he said, approaching. "I already told you I can't work for you anymore," she replied, trying to move away. "Jennifer, or should I say Amanda?" he said, and she stopped immediately. Her face paled. "How did you find out?" she asked in a whisper. "The agency has no Jennifer Miller registered. Do you want to explain why you're using a fake name?" he questioned. Jennifer looked around nervously, as if searching for a way out. "Please, Mr. David, I can't explain now. Not here," she said. "Then when?" "Emily is suffering without you, and I need to know who I left my daughter with these 3 months," he insisted. Before she could answer, a nurse approached them. "Jennifer, have you finished cleaning Wing B?" asked the woman. "I'm heading there now, Nurse Susan," replied Jennifer. "Oh, did you bring a friend today?" asked Susan, looking at David with curiosity. "He's—" began Jennifer, but Susan interrupted her. "Wait, I know you. You're David Thompson, the businessman who owns that construction company, aren't you? Your photo was in the newspaper last month," said Susan excitedly. David nodded, still focused on Jennifer. "My, what a coincidence. Jennifer here is one of our most dedicated volunteers in the pediatric wing. Even though she works in cleaning, she always finds time to help with the special needs children," Susan shared, smiling. "Susan, please," murmured Jennifer, embarrassed. "Don't be modest, girl. You should see how the children improve when she works with them. It's a natural talent, I'd say," continued the nurse. David looked at Jennifer with renewed interest. "What kind of work does she do with the children?" he asked. "Oh, she has incredible physical therapy techniques. I've learned some things just by watching her. The doctors are impressed with the progress of the children she follows informally," explained Susan. "Susan, I need to go to work," said Jennifer, trying to end the conversation. Of course. It was a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Thompson," said the nurse, walking away. As soon as they were alone, David stared at Jennifer with determined eyes. "Now you're going to explain everything to me," he said firmly. Jennifer took a deep breath, as if carrying an immense weight on her shoulders. "Not here. If you really want to know, meet me tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon in Central Park. But after that, promise you'll leave me alone," she asked. "That depends on what you tell me," he answered honestly. "All right, but you'll regret insisting so much," she said, picking up the cleaning supplies and walking away. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, David arrived at Central Park a few minutes before 2. Jennifer was already there, sitting on a bench under a tree, looking more fragile than he remembered. "Thank you for coming," she said as he approached. "Thank you for agreeing to talk," he replied, sitting beside her. They sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the children play in the park's playground. David noticed how Jennifer's eyes fixed on each child, as if searching for something in them. "My real name is Anna Jennifer Miller," she finally began. "I only use Jennifer because, well, it's easier that way." "Why did you lie about your name to the agency?" he asked. "Because I have a complicated history with other agencies. I always end up getting fired," she explained, still looking at the children. "Why?" he insisted. Jennifer took a deep breath before continuing. "Because I get too involved with the children, especially those with special needs. I can't just be an employee," she admitted. "And that's a bad thing?" asked David. "It is when you cross professional boundaries like I did with Emily," she answered, finally looking at him. David saw tears forming in her eyes. "Jennifer, where did you learn those physical therapy techniques?" he asked gently. Tears began to stream down her face. "I had a sister," she said, her voice choked. "Her name was Sophie. She was born with severe cerebral palsy when I was 8 years old." David felt his heart tighten at her suffering. "My mother couldn't handle the situation. She left when Sophie turned 2. My father worked constantly to support us, so it fell to me to take care of her," continued Jennifer. "At 8 years old?" asked David, incredulous. "At first, my grandmother helped me, but she was very elderly and couldn't handle it for long. By the time I was 10, it was practically just me and Sophie," she explained, wiping away tears. David began to understand the origin of her knowledge. "How did you learn to care for her?" he asked. "I went with her to every doctor's appointment, to every physical therapy session at the health clinic. I paid attention to every movement, every exercise. At home, I repeated everything I saw the professionals doing," Jennifer recounted. "And did it work?" he asked. Sophie improved a lot. The doctors were impressed with her progress. They said it was a miracle, considering she only had care in the public system, which is so limited, she recalled with a sad smile. "How long did you care for her?" asked David, though he suspected the answer would be painful. Jennifer's face twisted in pain. 10 years. She passed when I was 18. A respiratory complication, she said, her voice almost inaudible. David felt a lump in his throat. He was beginning to understand why she had run away when she grew attached to Emily. "After that, I swore I would never get close to special needs children again. The pain was unbearable," she continued. "But you work at the hospital, you care for other children," he observed. "Yes, because I found I couldn't stay away from them. It's as if Sophie guides me to help other children, but I always keep an emotional distance," explained Jennifer. "Until Emily came along," David finished. "Until Emily came along," she confirmed, beginning to cry more intensely. "When I first saw her, it was like seeing Sophie all over again. The same age as my sister when I started caring for her, the same condition, the same sweet way." David moved closer to her and instinctively hugged her. Jennifer didn't resist and cried on his shoulder, releasing all the pain she had carried for years. "Is that why you resigned?" he asked softly. "I got too attached. Emily means everything to me now, and that terrifies me. I can't go through that pain again," she murmured between sobs. "Jennifer, look at me," said David, gently pulling back to face her. She lifted her eyes, red from crying. "Emily needs you. Not as an employee, but as someone who truly cares for her," he said. "That's exactly what scares me," she admitted. "Why can't you care?" he asked. "Because if I get attached and something happens to her—" Jennifer began, but couldn't finish the sentence. "What if nothing happens? What if you can make a difference in her life like you did in Sophie's?" David argued. Jennifer shook her head. "You don't understand. I couldn't save my sister. In the end, all my care wasn't enough," she said bitterly. "But you gave her 10 years of love and care that she wouldn't have had otherwise." "That's not nothing, Jennifer," he replied. "What if I fail Emily too?" she asked, fear evident in her voice. "What if you don't fail?" he countered. They fell silent for a few minutes, each lost in their own thoughts. "Jennifer, can I tell you something?" David finally said. She nodded. "When my wife passed, I thought I'd never be able to care for Emily on my own, especially after her diagnosis. I was so afraid of failing as a daddy that I almost gave up many times," he confessed. Jennifer looked at him with interest. "But you kept going," she observed. "Yes, because I realized Emily needed me, despite all my fears and limitations. And you know what I discovered?" he asked. "What?" she murmured. "That imperfect love is better than no love at all. Emily is happier with me, even with my flaws, than she would be without me," David explained. The words struck a deep chord in Jennifer. Do you think Sophie would have preferred you not to care for her, just to avoid your suffering when she passed?" he asked gently. Jennifer closed her eyes as if it were a question she had never asked herself. "No," she finally admitted. "Sophie was happy. Even with all the limitations, she smiled every day. She loved me as much as I loved her." "Then why should Emily be deprived of that love you have to give?" asked David. Jennifer remained silent for a long time, processing his words. "I'm so afraid," she murmured finally. "Me too," he admitted. "Fear of not being a good father, fear of not being able to give Emily everything she needs. But we're in this together now, aren't we?" Jennifer looked at him surprised. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Come back home, Jennifer. Emily needs you, and I need your help to take care of her," he said sincerely. "I don't know if I can," she murmured. "You don't need to decide right now. How about starting slowly? Come over for dinner at our place tonight. Emily would be so happy to see you," he suggested. Jennifer hesitated, but David saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "And then you can decide whether you want to continue or not. No pressure," he added. "All right," she finally said with a timid smile. That afternoon, when David arrived home with Jennifer, Emily ran to her with a joy he hadn't seen in days. "Jenny, Jenny, you came back!" the girl shouted, jumping into her arms. Jennifer lifted her up and hugged her tightly with tears in her eyes. "Hi, Princess. I missed you," she whispered in the child's ear. "I missed you too, Jenny." So much," replied Emily, covering Jennifer's face with little kisses. During dinner, the difference in Emily's behavior was noticeable. She ate everything without complaining, chatted animatedly, and even tried to show Jennifer some little steps she had tried to take on her own during her absence. "Look, Jenny, I practiced," said Emily, holding onto the table and taking a few unsteady steps. "Wow, what a brave girl," exclaimed Jennifer, clapping her hands. After Emily went to sleep, David and Jennifer stayed in the living room talking. "She really missed you," he observed. "I missed her too," admitted Jennifer. "So what do you think? Want to try again?" he asked. Jennifer took a deep breath. "I want to try, but with one condition," she said. "What is it?" asked David. "I want to be honest about everything from now on, no lies or half-truths," she said. "Agreed," he immediately concurred. "And I would like to tell Emily about my sister. When she's older, of course. I think Sophie would like to be remembered," said Jennifer with a nostalgic smile. "I'm sure she would," replied David, touched by the idea. "And there's one more thing," she continued. "Tell me," he encouraged. "I would like to resume my studies. I always wanted to officially become a physical therapist, but I never had the opportunity," confessed Jennifer. "That's wonderful. I can help you with that," David immediately offered. No, I want to achieve it on my own merit. But thank you," she said, smiling. "As you wish. The important thing is that you're coming back," he said, relieved. In the following days, the household routine returned to normal, but with one important difference. Now there was a new honesty between David and Jennifer. She shared more details about her difficult childhood, about how she learned to cook at 9 years old to take care of her sister, about how she studied secretly after Sophie fell asleep. David, in turn, opened up about his pain over losing his wife, about how he felt inadequate as a single father, about his fears regarding Emily's future. "Sometimes I'm afraid she'll never be completely independent," he confessed one night as they watched Emily sleep. "She'll be everything she can be, and that's already a lot," Jennifer wisely replied. "How do you manage to be so optimistic after everything you've been through?" he asked admiringly. "Sophie taught me that life is too precious to waste on pessimism. Every little achievement of hers was a celebration," explained Jennifer. As the weeks passed, David began to notice changes not only in Emily, but in the entire household dynamic. Jennifer wasn't just an employee, she had become part of the family. She participated in decisions about Emily, helped with medical appointments, and even cooked for them on weekends. "Daddy, can Jenny stay forever?" Emily asked one day, innocently. David Thompson and Jennifer exchanged embarrassed glances. "Why do you want her to stay forever, Princess?" he asked. "Because she makes me happy, and she makes you happy too, Daddy," replied Emily with the typical honesty of children. Later, when Emily was watching cartoons, David pulled Jennifer aside for a conversation. "She's not wrong, you know," he said. "About what?" asked Jennifer, though she knew what he was talking about. "About you making me happy. It's been a long time since I've felt so complete," he confessed. Jennifer felt her heart race. "David," she began, but he interrupted her. "I know it's complicated. I know it started as a professional relationship, but it's turned into something more, hasn't it?" he asked uncertainly. "It has," she admitted in a whisper. "So what do we do about it?" he asked. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "I'm afraid that if things don't work out between us, I'll lose Emily too." And I'm afraid of the opposite, that if we don't try, we'll lose the chance to be a real family, said David. A family? Repeated Jennifer, surprised. Yes. You, me, and Emily. Isn't that what we already are in practice? He asked. Jennifer reflected on his words. It was true that they already functioned as a family. She participated in all decisions about Emily, cared about David's well-being, and he supported her in her personal plans. What if it doesn't work out? She asked, expressing her biggest fear. What if it does? He countered, echoing the conversation they'd had in the park weeks before. That night, they talked late into the night about their feelings, their fears, and their hopes. They decided to try to build a relationship, but carefully and always prioritizing Emily's well-being. If at any point this hurts Emily, we stop, they agreed. But the opposite happened. As David and Jennifer grew closer as a couple, Emily seemed even happier and more secure. She started calling them my parents when playing with her dolls, creating family scenarios that reflected her reality. 3 months later, during an appointment with Dr. Catherine, there was good news about Emily's progress. She's improved beyond my most optimistic expectations, said the doctor. You're doing an exceptional job. It's all thanks to Jennifer, said David proudly. To both of us, corrected Jennifer, taking his hand. The doctor smiled upon noticing the affectionate gesture between them. A united family really makes all the difference in the treatment of a special child, she observed. Leaving the office, David had an idea. Jennifer, do you remember when you said you wanted to study physical therapy? He asked. Yes. Why? She replied. How about applying for the entrance exam next semester? He suggested. David, that's expensive and I still can't afford it, she argued. What if there was a scholarship for employees of my company? He asked with a mysterious smile. What employees? She asked, confused. You, of course, officially, with a signed contract, fair salary and scholarship benefits, he explained. Jennifer was speechless. Are you serious? She asked, incredulous. Completely serious. You're already part of the family. Now, do you want to be part of the company too? As Child Wellness Coordinator, he proposed. Child Wellness Coordinator? She repeated, laughing. A new position I created especially for you. You'll take care of the children of employees who need special support, explained David. And that's a real thing, she asked, still suspicious. It is now, he said, kissing her gently. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. 6 months later, Jennifer was officially enrolled in the local university's physical therapy program, studying with a full scholarship offered by David's company. She kept her job caring for Emily and also began helping other employees who had children with special needs. The first child she started working with was Mason, son of Richard, one of the engineers at the construction company. The boy had Down syndrome and his parents were desperate because he couldn't adapt to school. Jennifer, could you take a look at him? Asked Richard, bringing his 5-year-old son to meet her. Mason was shy and hid behind his father, but Jennifer crouched down to his level and began talking softly. Hi, Mason. I'm Jennifer. Do you like to play? She asked, showing some toys she had prepared especially for him. In no time, Mason was playing and laughing with her, while Richard watched in amazement. How do you do that? Asked the father. Every child has their own time and their own way of learning. We just need to figure out what it is, explained Jennifer, continuing to play with Mason. Within 2 weeks of working with him, Mason was already adapting better at school and at home. Richard spread the news throughout the company, and soon other employees began seeking help for their children. You're becoming famous, David joked one evening, seeing her packed schedule. I'm just doing what I love, replied Jennifer, studying for a college exam. And you're doing it very well, he said, massaging her shoulders. Emily, who was playing on the living room floor, looked at them and smiled. Daddy, are you going to marry Jenny? The little girl suddenly asked. Jennifer nearly choked on the glass of water she was drinking, and David turned red. Why do you want to know that, princess? Asked her father, deflecting. Because Anna at school said that when Daddy and Mommy like each other very much, they get married, explained Emily with childlike logic. And would you like them to get married? Asked Jennifer, curious to hear the answer. Yes, then you'd be my real mommy, exclaimed Emily excitedly. David and Jennifer exchanged glances, both touched by the child's innocence. Well, marriage is a grown-up thing, Princess. When it happens, you'll be the first to know, said David, kissing his daughter's forehead. Promise, insisted Emily. I promise, he replied, looking meaningfully at Jennifer. Later, when Emily was asleep, they talked about the subject. She's right, you know, said David. About what? Asked Jennifer, though she knew the answer. About us liking each other very much. Very much indeed, he said, hugging her. I love you too, David, said Jennifer, for the first time expressing her feelings so clearly. Then marry me, he asked spontaneously. Are you serious? She asked, surprised. I've never been more serious in my life, he replied. Jennifer was silent for a few seconds, processing the request. What if I'm not a good stepmother to Emily? She asked, expressing her insecurities. Jennifer, you're already her mother in everything but name. Emily loves you more than she would any biological mother, David replied with conviction. What if I can't be a good wife? I've never had a serious relationship, she admitted, and I've never had a relationship with someone who loves my daughter as much as you do. We're learning together, he said. That's true, she agreed, smiling. So? He insisted. Yes, she replied simply. Yes? He repeated, not believing how easily she answered. Yes, I want to marry you, she confirmed, laughing at his surprised expression. They kissed passionately, sealing their commitment. When do we tell Emily? Asked Jennifer. How about now? Suggested David mischievously. She's sleeping, protested Jennifer. Then first thing tomorrow. I can't keep this news to myself, he said, excited like a child. The next morning, Emily woke up and found the two of them in the kitchen preparing a special breakfast. Why is there chocolate cake for breakfast? Asked the girl, puzzled. Because we have very special news to tell you, said Jennifer, picking Emily up. What news? Asked Emily, her eyes shining with curiosity. Daddy and Jenny are getting married, announced David. Emily stayed silent for a few seconds, processing the information. Really? She finally asked. Really, confirmed Jennifer. Emily then screamed with joy and hugged them both tightly. Now you'll be my mommy forever, she exclaimed. Forever, promised Jennifer, with tears of happiness in her eyes. The following months were a whirlwind of wedding preparations, Jennifer's college studies, David's work, and taking care of Emily. But it was a happy whirlwind full of plans and dreams. Jennifer decided she wanted a simple wedding, only with close people. David agreed, as long as they could throw a special party for Emily. I want her to feel part of everything, he said. She'll be our maid of honor, decided Jennifer. Our? Asked David. Hers and mine. After all, she's the one who brought us together, wasn't she? Explained Jennifer, smiling. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jennifer received an unexpected call. It was from a doctor at Children's Memorial Hospital in the state capital. Miss Anna Jennifer, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Roberts. I heard about your work through Dr. Catherine Williams and would like to make a proposal, said the woman. What kind of proposal? Asked Jennifer, curious. We're putting together a multidisciplinary team to care for children with special needs. You're still in college, but your practical work is exceptional. I'd like to offer you an internship position with the possibility of permanent employment after graduation, explained the doctor. Jennifer was speechless. It was an incredible opportunity, but it would mean moving to the capital. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, but I need an answer by the end of the month, said the doctor. Jennifer hung up the phone, troubled. It was her dream job, but how could she leave David and Emily? That evening, she told David about the proposal. It's an incredible opportunity, Jennifer. You should accept, he said to her surprise. What do you mean? And Emily? And you? And our wedding? She asked, confused. We're coming with you, of course, he replied as if it were obvious. Together? But your company is here, she argued. My company can have a branch in the capital. Actually, I was already thinking about expanding anyway, explained David. You would do that for me? Asked Jennifer, moved. I would do that for us. For our family, he corrected. And Emily. She's doing so well here with school, her friends, worried Jennifer. Emily adapts wherever we are together. And in the capital, she'd have access to even better resources for her development, argued David. Are you sure? She asked. Absolutely. In fact, I think it's destiny. You'll work at the best children's rehabilitation hospital in the state, I'll expand the business, and Emily will grow up in an environment with even more opportunities, he said, excited. The next day, Jennifer called Dr. Elizabeth, accepting the proposal on the condition she would only start after the honeymoon. The wedding took place in a small chapel in town with only 30 guests. Emily was radiant in her maid of honor dress, carrying the rings with adorable seriousness. During the ceremony, when the priest asked if there was any reason the two should not be married, Emily raised her hand. I have something to say, she said, to the shock and amusement of the guests. Speak, princess, encouraged the priest, accustomed to children's surprises. I want to say that Jenny is the best mommy in the world, and Daddy is the best daddy in the world, and I'm very happy, declared Emily, drawing emotional laughter from everyone present. I think that's not an impediment. It's an approval, said the priest, smiling. After the ceremony, there was a party in the church hall with homemade food made by friends and live music. Emily danced all night, sometimes with David, sometimes with Jennifer, sometimes alone in the middle of the dance floor. She's so happy, observed Jennifer, watching her daughter dance. We all are, replied David, spinning his wife to the rhythm of the music. During the honeymoon, which they spent at an inn in the mountains, leaving Emily with David's maternal grandmother, they talked a lot about the future. You know what amazes me the most about all this? Said Jennifer one morning, as they had coffee on the balcony overlooking the mountains. What? Asked David. How everything fit together perfectly. If I hadn't taken care of Sophie, I wouldn't have known how to help Emily. If I hadn't met Emily, I wouldn't have met you. If I hadn't met you, I wouldn't have had the courage to go back to studying, she reflected. It's as if everything has a purpose, agreed David. Do you think Sophie is happy? Asked Jennifer, a question that had been tormenting her for a long time. I'm sure she is. Your sister taught you to love and care for special needs children. Through her, you found Emily and me. And through us, you'll be able to help hundreds of other children at the hospital, replied David, holding her hand. I never thought of it that way, admitted Jennifer. Sophie continues to help other children through you. It's a beautiful way to keep her alive, he said. Jennifer cried, but this time they were tears of peace, not pain. 6 months later, they were already settled in the capital. David had opened a branch of the construction company and secured several important contracts. Emily was enrolled in a specialized school where she flourished even more, making new friends and learning things that neither David nor Jennifer imagined she would be capable of. Jennifer was radiant at work. At Children's Memorial Hospital, she handled complex cases and developed innovative techniques that caught the attention of even international professionals. Jennifer, you need to see this, said Dr. Elizabeth one day, showing a letter. What is it? Asked Jennifer, reading the document. An invitation to present your work at the International Congress of Pediatric Neurorehabilitation, explained the doctor. Really? Asked Jennifer, incredulous. Really? You developed a stimulation protocol that has shown extraordinary results. We want you to share it with the world, said Dr. Elizabeth. Jennifer ran home to tell the news to David and Emily. Mommy Jenny, you're going to be famous, exclaimed Emily, clapping her hands. Not quite, princess, laughed Jennifer. But it's close, said David, proud. My wife, the international physical therapist. Our wife, corrected Emily, making both of them laugh. At the Congress, Jennifer presented her work on neurological stimulation through emotional bonding in children with cerebral palsy. The audience was impressed with the results she had achieved. During the presentation, she spoke about Sophie, about Emily, about the importance of love in the rehabilitation process. The most sophisticated technique cannot replace genuine affection, she said, concluding the presentation. The applause was warm and prolonged. Several professionals approached her afterward to learn more about her work. Back home, Jennifer found a surprise. David and Emily had prepared a surprise party to celebrate her success. You didn't have to, she said, moved to see her friends and co-workers gathered in her home. Yes, we did, said David. You deserve to be recognized for the wonderful work you do. During the party, Emily climbed onto a chair and asked for everyone's attention. "Hey, can I say something?" said the girl, now 6 years old and much more confident. "Of course, Emily," the guests replied, amused. "I want to say that Mommy Jenny is the most special person in the world. She taught me how to walk, she taught me to be brave, and she gave me a family," declared Emily with adorable seriousness. "And now she's going to teach other kids like me how to be happy too," the girl continued. The guests were moved by Emily's sincere words. "And Daddy," Emily continued, looking at David, "thank you for finding Mommy Jenny for us." "Thank you for letting me find her," replied David, his voice choked with emotion. Later, when everyone had left and Emily was asleep, David and Jennifer talked in the kitchen while washing the dishes. "You know what I'm thinking," said David. "What?" asked Jennifer. "That maybe it's time we gave Emily a little brother or sister," he suggested nervously. Jennifer stopped washing the dishes and stared at him. "You want to have another child?" she asked. "I do." "And you?" he replied. "Very much," she admitted, smiling. "So shall we try?" he asked. "Let's," she replied, kissing him. 9 months later, Ethan was born, a healthy and clever boy who became the joy of the house. Emily was delighted to be a big sister and helped with everything she could. "Mommy Jenny, will he need physical therapy like I did?" asked Emily, watching her little brother. "No, Princess. Ethan was born without any problems," explained Jennifer. "That's good," said Emily. "That way you can teach more kids who need it, like I did." The girl's wisdom always impressed her parents. 2 years later, Jennifer opened her own clinic, specializing in pediatric rehabilitation. She offered free care for underprivileged families and training courses for other professionals. At the opening ceremony, she gave an emotional speech. "This clinic exists because of a very special girl named Sophie, who taught me that love can move mountains," she said with tears in her eyes. "It exists because of Emily, who showed me that it's worth overcoming our fears to help those we love," she continued. "And it exists because of my husband David, who gave me the courage to believe in myself," she concluded. In the audience, David held Ethan on his lap while Emily applauded enthusiastically. "Long live Mommy Jenny," shouted Emily, making everyone laugh. 5 years passed. Emily, now 11 years old, was an independent and confident girl who helped Jennifer at the clinic on her free afternoons, playing with the younger children. Ethan, at 3 years old, was a talkative and affectionate boy who loved to help his mother during appointments. David had expanded the construction company to 3 cities and specialized in building accessible rehabilitation centers. Jennifer had become a national reference in pediatric neurorehabilitation and received invitations to give lectures all over the country. "Did you imagine our life would be like this when you quit your job that day?" asked David one evening as they watched the children playing in the backyard. "Never," replied Jennifer, laughing. "I just wanted to protect my heart from more pain." "And you discovered that the heart works better when it's not protected," observed David. "I discovered that it's worth taking risks when it's for love," she agreed. Emily ran up to them. "Mommy Jenny, can I ask a question?" said the girl. "Of course, Princess," replied Jennifer. "Why do you always talk about Aunt Sophie when you're sad?" asked Emily, with the curiosity typical of her age. Jennifer took a deep breath. I had already told Emily about my sister, but the girl wanted to understand better. "Because when I remember her, I remember that she taught me to be strong," explained Jennifer. "Would she have liked me?" asked Emily innocently. "She would have loved you as much as I do," replied Jennifer, hugging her daughter. "And Ethan too?" insisted Emily. "Ethan too," confirmed Jennifer. "Then she is happy in heaven, because her family got bigger," said Emily with the pure logic of children. Jennifer smiled, moved once again by her daughter's wisdom. "Yes, my love. Yes, she is." That night, when the children were asleep, David found Jennifer on the porch, watching the stars. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, sitting beside her. "About how everything has changed. 12 years ago, I was a scared girl who had just lost her sister. Today, I'm a mother of 2 wonderful children, wife to an amazing man, and I work helping other families," she reflected. And what was the secret to the transformation? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Letting love in even at the risk of getting hurt, she replied. Do you regret it? He asked. The pain? Never. It prepared me to recognize happiness when it arrived, she said, resting her head on his shoulder. I love you, Jennifer, murmured David. I love you too, and I love our crazy family, she replied, laughing. Crazy? He asked, pretending to be indignant. In the best way. Emily, who was born with a special condition and became the bravest girl I know. Ethan, who at 3 years old already wants to be a physical therapist like his mom. You, who left your organized bachelor life to form an atypical family. And me, who ran from love and ended up finding more love than I knew was possible, she listed. When you put it that way, we really are a little crazy, agreed David, laughing. And you wouldn't change anything? She asked. Nothing, he replied without hesitation. They stayed there hugging, watching the stars and planning the future. Jennifer had just received a proposal to write a book about her rehabilitation techniques. David was thinking about building a public rehabilitation center in the city. Do you think we'll be able to achieve all our dreams? Asked Jennifer. We're already achieving the most important one, replied David. Which one? She asked, though she knew the answer. Being a happy family, he said, kissing her gently. The next day, Emily woke up with a brilliant idea. Mommy, Jenny, Daddy, I have an idea, she announced during breakfast. What is it, Princess? Asked the parents in unison. How about we throw a party to celebrate the day you met, suggested the girl. But it's not our wedding anniversary or our dating anniversary, said David. No, but it was the most important day for our family. If you hadn't met, I wouldn't have a mommy. Ethan wouldn't have been born and you wouldn't be happy, explained Emily with irrefutable logic. Jennifer and David looked at each other, touched by their daughter's insight. You know she's right, said Jennifer. Absolutely. How about we make it a tradition? Every year we celebrate the day of our first meeting, proposed David. I want to help organize, shouted Ethan, who didn't want to be left out. Of course, everyone will help, said Jennifer, hugging the children. And so began another tradition for the Thompson-Miller family. Meeting Day, as Emily named it. Every year, on the day David had come home early and seen Jennifer playing with Emily, they threw a small party just for the family, telling the story of how they met and remembering how their lives changed. And if Daddy hadn't come home early that day? Ethan would ask every time they heard the story. Oh, but he did, and that changed everything, Emily would reply, always optimistic. And if Mommy Jenny had left and never come back? Insisted Ethan. But she came back, and now we're a family forever, concluded Emily. Jennifer always got emotional hearing these conversations between her children. Even when they were little, they understood that their family had formed in a special way. Years passed. Emily graduated high school as one of the top students in her class and decided to follow in her mother's footsteps by studying physical therapy. Ethan showed interest in the arts and began studying music. You don't have to follow our paths, said David one day, when Ethan mentioned he should maybe study business to take over the construction company. I know, Dad, but I want to do what makes me happy like you did, replied the boy, now a teenager. And what makes you happy? Asked Jennifer. Music. I want to compose songs that make people smile, Ethan replied with conviction. Then that's what you should do, supported Emily. And I want to help children like I once was. I'm so proud of both of you, said Jennifer, hugging her children. On the day Emily graduated as a physical therapist, 10 years after Jennifer, they opened a new rehabilitation center together, even bigger and more complete. Mom, there's something I've always wanted to ask you, said Emily during the opening ceremony. What is it? Asked Jennifer. Do you think Aunt Sophie would be proud to see everything we've accomplished? Asked the young woman. Jennifer looked around, seeing dozens of families waiting for care, dedicated professionals she had trained, modern equipment that would allow cutting-edge treatments. I'm sure she would, she replied. Sophie always dreamed of seeing other children having the opportunities she didn't have. Then this clinic is for her too, said Emily, smiling. For her, for you, for all the children we will still help, agreed Jennifer. David, who was watching from afar with Ethan, approached the two. Ready for the inauguration speech? He asked. Ready, replied Jennifer, taking a deep breath. Wait, said Emily, holding her mother's hand. Shall we do this together? Together, agreed Jennifer. Mother and daughter stepped onto the small stage set up in the clinic's courtyard. Hundreds of people awaited them. Patients, family members, healthcare professionals, local authorities. Good afternoon, everyone, began Jennifer. 20 years ago, I was a frightened young woman who had lost her sister and swore never to get close to special needs children again. 15 years ago, I was a little girl who could barely take a few steps and was very afraid to try, continued Emily. Today, we're here together, inaugurating this center that will help hundreds of families, said Jennifer. And this was only possible because someone had the courage to love, despite fear, added Emily, looking tenderly at her mother. The audience applauded emotionally. This clinic is dedicated to all the Sophies, Emilys, Ethans, and Davids who believe love can transform lives, said Jennifer, concluding the speech. And especially to the families who never stop fighting for those they love, finished Emily. The applause was warm and prolonged. In the front row, David and Ethan stood applauding, proud of the two most important women in their lives. Later, when everyone had left and they were tidying up the place, Ethan asked a question that took everyone by surprise. Mom, Dad, can I make a request? Said the young man, now 16. Of course, son, replied the parents. I want to compose a song about our family, to play at the clinic's graduation ceremonies, he explained. What a beautiful idea, exclaimed Emily. Would you do that? Asked Jennifer, touched. I've already started. It's called Destined Encounters, said Ethan, pulling a notebook from his pocket. He began to read the lyrics he had written. There was a girl who taught about love, even leaving early. She left her worth. There was another girl who needed to learn that she wasn't alone, she had someone to protect her. There was a lost man not knowing how to care until a young woman arrived to teach. That true love knows no fear, and that family is built with tenderness from the start. These are destined encounters meant to happen. When hearts come together, everything can blossom. The entire family fell silent, moved by the lyrics. Ethan, this is beautiful, murmured Jennifer with tears in her eyes. It captured our story exactly, agreed David. And it ends like this, continued Ethan, reading the final part. And so a family was born from chance and faith, proving that love always finds its why. Sophie, smiling from heaven, can see that her love continues to blossom. Emily began to cry with emotion. Aunt Sophie would be so proud, she sobbed. She would be proud of all of us, said Jennifer, hugging the children and her husband. We're quite a family, aren't we? Joked David, trying to lighten the emotion of the moment. The best family in the world, replied Emily. Our family, said Ethan simply. Forever, completed Jennifer. That night, when they returned home, they did something they hadn't done in a long time. They all sat together on the living room sofa and talked late into the night about their dreams, their plans, their dearest memories. Do you know what I learned from you? Said Emily. What? Asked the others. That family isn't just who you're born with, it's who chooses to stay together, she replied. And that love multiplied never diminishes, added Ethan. And that it's worth taking risks for the sake of those we love, said David, looking at Jennifer. And that sometimes we need to lose something to find everything, finished Jennifer, thinking of Sophie and how her loss had, indirectly, led to the building of that wonderful family. 25 years had passed since that day when David came home early and saw Jennifer playing with Emily. Now he was a grandfather to 3 grandchildren. Emily's children, who had married a physical therapist colleague, and Ethan's son, who pursued a musical career and started a family with a music teacher. Jennifer had become one of the most respected pediatric physical therapists in the country, author of several books and mentor to hundreds of professionals. But her greatest pride remained her family and the thousands of children she had helped over the years. At the couple's silver anniversary party, Emily gave an emotional speech. 25 years ago, a frightened girl quit her job because she grew too attached to the child she cared for. Today, that brave woman is my mother, grandmother to my children, and an inspiration to thousands of people. 25 years ago, a widowed man came home early and discovered that his daughter was taking her first steps. Today, that man is my father, who built a family based on unconditional love. You both taught me that true love isn't the kind that never faces difficulties, but the kind that chooses to overcome all difficulties together, she continued. In the audience, Ethan softly played his song, Destined Encounters, which had become the family's official song. And now, 25 years later, I can say with certainty, every tear, every fear overcome, every moment of uncertainty was worth it, concluded Emily, because you built a family that is an example that love can transform any story. The couple embraced on stage, surrounded by their children, sons-in-law, daughters-in-law, and grandchildren. It was the perfect picture of a family that had grown through love, dedication, and the courage to bet on happiness. Later, when everyone had left, David and Jennifer sat on their porch, just as they had decades ago. "If you could go back in time, would you change anything?" asked David. Jennifer thought for a moment, looking at the family photos scattered across the porch table, Sophie smiling in a faded photo, Emily taking her first steps, Ethan playing the guitar, the grandchildren playing in the backyard. "I wouldn't change a thing," she finally replied, "not even the pain I went through, because it was that pain that prepared me to recognize and cherish all the happiness that would come later." "Even losing Sophie?" he asked gently. "Especially losing Sophie," she replied, surprising him, "because it was through her that I learned to love unconditionally. It was through the techniques I developed while caring for her that I could help Emily. It was through Emily that I met you, and it was through you that we built this beautiful family." "It's as if everything was planned," observed David. "Or as if love always finds a way to multiply," said Jennifer, smiling. "I love you, wife," murmured David. "I love you too, husband," she replied. "Where do you think destiny will take us next?" asked David, looking toward the future. "Wherever it may be, we'll go together," replied Jennifer, "as a family." And so, sitting on the porch, planning new dreams and remembering past achievements, David and Jennifer continued writing the story of a family that was born from a chance encounter, but was built with much love, dedication, and courage. A family that proved that sometimes you have to get a little lost to find yourself completely. A family that showed that true love isn't afraid to give itself, even at the risk of getting hurt. A family that discovered that happiness is even sweeter when shared with those we love. And somewhere, Sophie was smiling, knowing that her love had been the seed of all this happiness that blossomed through the years, multiplying into generations of love, care, and dedication. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story and where you're watching from. Do you believe love can transform lives as it did for Jennifer and David? Leave your opinion in the comments with sincere words from the heart. Thank you so much for your company, and don't forget to leave your like, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one.